As any of my colleagues on the committee might have perhaps seen, Avenue Q, an excellent production on Broadway. One of the signature songs from that is "The Internet is for Porn," and without objection, Mr. Chair, I'd like to submit the lyrics to "The Internet is for Porn" for the record.
Is it printable?
It's printable, and I'm told we're immune from copyright laws, so we can print whatever we like in the record. Is that correct? I'm more scared of copyright laws than anti-pornography laws.
It's under advisement is all I can.
It has no obscenities.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And indeed, a high percentage of Internet traffic is porn. A high percentage of piracy is porn. And when we are talking about this bill in its current form, it is truly a pornographer's wet dream. Yes, Mr. Chairman, this bill in its current form would unleash the Attorney General's office to defend pornographers first and foremost. Indeed, about 10 to 15% of Internet searches are for porn. An even higher percentage of traffic is related to porn, and yes, commerce and piracy related to porn. Now, where it is confines with the law, I'm not making the argument that somehow this is an invalid form of commerce. There are, of course, local and state and national laws with regard to consent and exploitation that must be followed. But I would certainly argue that consistent with this bill and the fact that the Attorney General will have selective ability to use their limited resources to go after perpetrators, that in fact pornography and period interest should not be the focus of the Attorney General's protection. In fact, the Attorney General should make sure to protect legitimate businesses before any resources are used to protect pornographers. Under the current language, the Attorney General would use scarce resources to defend the pornography industry. My amendment would simply ensure that American tax dollars are not used to protect the intellectual property rights of pornographic or obscene websites. I have not heard a desire from the advocates of the bill to protect pornographic or obscene websites, and yet that is exactly what the bill would do absent this amendment. Let me be clear, my amendment does not restrict the rights of those who produce that content at all. Under this bill, the Justice Department would clearly be strained, as I questioned the Attorney General last week, with the vast powers that he's given. He would need hundreds of billions of dollars to fully implement this bill. So he will have to be very selective in how to use his resources, and I think guidance from this committee that he should protect pornographers last would be very helpful to the Attorney General in implementing this bill. I think we need to make it clear to the Department of Justice that they should not use their limited resources to defend pornographers, which otherwise would be the consequence of this bill. There is enormous commerce and enormous piracy and copyright infringement with regard to pornography. And frankly, absent this amendment, the Attorney General could certainly have a field day using taxpayer resources to protect pornographers. But I don't think that that was the intent of the committee. And my amendment would clarify that while the Internet may be for porn, the Attorney General's office is not there to use taxpayer resources to defend porn. I urge a yes vote on my amendment. I'll yield to the gentlelady from California.
I have a question, and I'm not sure that your amendment deals with this issue, but I read an article recently about the enforcement efforts of the pornography industry, and the representation in the news article was that it is the most common enforcement action is being taken by the pornography industry, and here's how it would work. They would bring an action against an individual, and actually apparently this has been farmed out to law firms who will then say you can either pay us $1,000 or we're going to file against you, and it's going to become public knowledge that we're accusing you of accessing pornography, and that most or many of those who are faced with that conundrum, whether or not they have actually accessed pornography, pay up because of the humiliation and embarrassment that would occur by having that become a public allegation. Would your amendment do anything to correct that?
Expired. Recognize myself in opposition to the amendment. The gentleman's amendment, intentional or not, would carve out an exemption that makes certain types of content even more widely available online. The absence of effective enforcement encourages more illegal activity, not less. Notwithstanding my personal opposition to the content, we need to respect the discretion of federal law enforcement officials to bring cases they think are appropriate. For that reason, I hope my colleagues will oppose the amendment. Yield back the balance of my time. Are there others who wish to be heard? The gentlewoman from California, Ms. Lofgren.
I move to strike the last word.
The gentlewoman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Going back to the scenario that I had reported just prior to the chairman's statement, and I guess this is a question I'll yield to Mr. Polis. The enforcement efforts underway that are basically a shakedown of individuals. They have to pay up, or there's going to be a public allegation that they've... Would this do anything to remedy that phenomenon?
I don't believe it would through private actions. However, absent this, it is possible that an attorney general could shake people down for political, ideological, or economic reasons over pornography, much of which is incidentally in violation of the terms of copyright. Much pornography is. We don't have exact statistics, but it's quite likely that the majority of the pornography on the internet is in violation of a copyright. And this would give the Attorney General and our federal government, which should be scary to many of us, the power to then enforce that against who they choose. But I don't believe it would remedy the private piece.
Now, is the reason why pornography is so ubiquitous on the internet in terms of infringement? I mean, people have a legal right to create pornographic movies, but I would guess, and I don't know if you know or not, I'll yield if you do, that if you're Mr. Smith, you know, and you've got your credit card, you don't necessarily want that on your credit card that your wife is opening up, and so that you might be led to infringing. Is that the phenomenon?
It is extremely difficult to get good statistics on the pornography industry, and I've read widely different accounts of the size of the industry, both in terms of dollar volume, in terms of the level of copyright infringement. But you're absolutely right. There is, because of the social stigma associated with pornography, additional efforts that many people undertake to be anonymous in that sense, and that, in fact, contributes to the copyright infringement issue with regard to pornography.
Well, I think actually it's important that you've clarified that the amendment would not limit or censor pornography, which is protected by the First Amendment. It would simply mean we're not going to use the taxpayers' money to go after that as a priority in the Department of Justice. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think not to support this amendment, folks, it's going to be kind of hard to explain back home, and I would yield.
Yeah, and I would go so far as to say that absent this amendment, it's quite possible that the bulk of the Attorney General and Justice's effort would be to protect pornographers from this bill, because that is a large dimension of the copyright issue.